Fan Corner, your favorite nerdy, unhinged podcast. Although, okay, team, let's have a moment here. Because I don't know if we've been unhinged enough to be having that as our catchphrase, Jelaire.
Why do you think that?
I don't know, we've been serious lately. With our,
Because we've had to be serious. We've had to be a little serious. New year, new sillies, am I right?
Trust seriousness upon us. We did
Truly.
not choose it.
We did not choose it.
We'll have to do another, FMK or something soon.
Oh my gosh.
Make it unhinged.
That would be so fun. Those are always fun episodes.
I threatened Brian with one, and he was like, I don't get it. Like, he was like, what do you
my
mean?
Gosh. That's because he's a man.
I guess they didn't play that game.
How dare they? Did they not play MASH either?
I'll have to ask him. Do you remember the one, like, when you would have the little, like...
The origami paper? Yeah. The cootie catcher?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we should make one soon.
Yeah, we should.
I don't know how to do it.
I don't either. I don't remember how. I always had people make them for me.
Same. There was, one designated girly pop who knew how to do it in each class, I think.
Oh, yeah. There had to be the resident, like, I know how to do this.
Yes. That was their claim to fame. And then there was the kid with the gum.
Yes. Always.
Okay. Well, today we're going to be doing, as our special edition Valentine's Day episode, we're going to be doing our favorite book boyfriends. We're going to dissect them, and we're going to crown someone the book boyfriend of Fan Corner. So we're really excited about that. But before we get into it, we're going to do our high mids like always. So, Jelaire, what is your high right now?
My high is that I got to go to a concert and see Ben Barnes.
Shut up.
I know. Rachel's mad she didn't get to come.
I actually am mad. I literally texted her. I was like, you're such a bitch for not coming.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
She told me after the tickets were sold out.
I know. But, so for anyone that's been living under a rock... Okay, Ben Barnes is most well known as Prince Caspian in the Chronicles of Narnia film, and more recently as the Darkling in the Shadow and Bone Netflix series. And lo and behold, he makes music. Well, bam, he just released an album in January, and he's gone on a tour, and it was so fun, because, like, the people that were his band, there's like 4 other people in his band. They each individually make their own music, so they were his openers, which I thought was so precious, you know?
Okay, and so please curious with me, aside from the fact that obviously he's really hot.
Yes.
And we all, I feel like he is the Darkling.
He is, yeah.
Was he good?
Yes! Honest. No, truly, I think he's really good.
Okay, I'm surprised, because Draco does music too, and to be clear, it is so wholesome. And
Tom Felton is, no.
But it's not very...
No.
But in the most loving way possible. I just don't think it was like, oh, he would be a rock star without this preconceived fame.
Yeah. No, Ben Barnes is a really good singer, and he co-wrote a lot of his music, and he talked about how some of it he wrote while on the Shadow and Bone set as his way to relax, which is really cool. And his lyrics are really good. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And then the cherry on top of all of it was that you can find it on TikTok, but somebody said something about, I don't know, whatever. They yelled something at him. And so he said, fine, make me your villain, in his voice. And I was like,
They literally told him to say that. That's what it was. I saw the TikTok.
Yeah.
It's so iconic you were there when that happened. I will share the link down below for anyone that missed it. If I can find it again, we'll see.
If not, I've got you, baby girl.
That's an amazing high, and it's very fan of me, so I love it.
Yes. What is your high, Rachel?
So my high, to bring us kind of low, but in a highway?
Yeah, the low highway.
The low highway. I don't know if y'all remember, but a few months ago, my mid was that I had been hospitalized for some health issues. So I have a diagnosis.
I even know this now.
Okay, so after years and years and years, my whole life, actually, I have had crippling nausea my entire life, and I've complained about doctors to it just all the time. I tend to bring it up, and I think some years are worse than others. Absolutely, but doctors normally They try to put me on birth control, which birth control is obviously a very important facet of the medical marvels. It should absolutely be legal and accessible, but makes me sicker personally. And they say, well, it's just part of being a woman, or I'll try their birth control and I'll get more sick. Like, they've never taken it very seriously. And it turns out that I have all these other things that I thought were just normal that are not normal. Like, I pain multiple times every day of my life. Like, low grade headaches. And if I'm not very careful, they become full-fledged big headaches. Yeah. And I thought that's how everyone was, because people talk about popping Advil, so I just thought we all were that way, and apparently that is not true. So anyway, after a lot of testing and doctors actually taking me seriously, and I don't know if it's because a man was in the room, certainly TikTok has taught me a lot about advocating for myself.
We love TikTok for that.
Seriously. But I have a diagnosis.
Okay.
And I have a follow-up appointment in 2 weeks, and they're going to probably be trying medications and stuff for me, but like, that means I mean, who knows? Like, I'm not saying I'm going to be cured. It's a chronic health condition.
Right.
So there's not a cure, and that's been overwhelming. But I have, like, this... I think I have, like, this validation when I'm not crazy and I'm not bad. But I always thought my headaches and my nausea were somehow my fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, well, I didn't drink enough. But apparently, for most people... they don't have to drink water as much as I do to not get a headache. Like, it's just not normal. So, anyway, the good news is I might be getting better. So, that's
yay! I'm so glad that you were listened to and are finally, like, getting the answers that you've needed for literally decades.
No, seriously. Like, doctors suck, y'all.
Yeah.
It's fine. What's your mid, Jelaire?
Okay, so I have two. One is
saucy.
I know. Well, one of them is very simple. It's just that last week I was sick, completely sick, down for the count, and it meant I did not read Iron Sonic Storm. Yeah. So I'm still working on it. Rachel's done. I'm working on it. But then, so being sick was the real low, but then the actual mid is that, y'all, remember months ago I told you all I was reading Hermione fanfic? I read Manacled, and Manacled is mid as fuck. Come for me. I don't care.
People are gonna cancel us over this. Like, I can see
that's okay. They can cancel me. I know I'm a minority. I'm glad you hoes that love it. No. It was mid for me.
What's so funny is they're making it into an actual book now, too. So, you know what's so interesting about these is it really changes the work to be published, A, and B, like, I know Manacled, I've not read it, but I know the themes that are in it, and I don't know, I'm not saying dark fiction doesn't have a place by any means, but I definitely think anytime someone's being R-worded legitimately,
that
I know, and I want to be clear, I know sometimes victims find, like, therapeutic effect in, like, rewriting what happened to them.
Totally.
There's a place for that, but in terms of, like, published on, like, mainstream shelves, I think it can just put out this vibe of, like, negativity. I read recently Quicksilver. I have no idea who it's by, I forgot.
It's okay, it's popular right now.
It's popular. Everyone's talking about it. And there's literally a scene where he was like, and this is nothing compared to Manacled, but he was like kind of getting up in her stuff. And I know it's enemies to lovers, like, I'm not an idiot. You could see the writing on the wall. But he's getting up in her face and she says stop. And he does. He immediately puts his hands down and whatever. But then he says, you know, because he's Fae, so he's like, I can tell that you want me, though. Like, blah, blah, blah. And she says, I don't want you, I'm afraid. And because we're reading it in her POV, I can tell you that both are true. She wants him, and she's afraid. And so him just completely invalidating her, I was like, oh, that's rape culture. Like, I was like, you're not fucking doing that.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
What the fuck, bro? Like,
seriously.
I was so upset. I literally threw it across the room and was like, it's dead to me. Done.
Dead to me. Yeah, no, like I think probably the big part of like the fandom part of why one I other than my personal opinion thinking Manacled is mid, is that it's a lot of people's first jump into Hermione fanfic or fanfic in general. And so I think it's a really poor example to jump into immediately for that kind of media, and also with it being so dark, like it just doesn't, I just don't think it's a good thing to jump immediately into.
Sure.
Right off the bat. And also like the characters, the way that Hermione and Draco are portrayed, I feel like, you know, obviously there's artistic liberties there, you know, in every fan fiction, but like I feel like they're so not even their own characters. Like you could literally call them anybody else.
Sure. Which I guess is why it's getting self-published now, you know, or
yeah, it's getting actually published now. But like yeah, I just remember when, you know, the craze on TikTok was to read that specific one. And I'm like, thankfully I had read some other Hermione fanfics before. And I'm like, if this was my intro to this, I would be like, is this what all the fandom loves and like wants to read? Like that would just be my big perception of the fandom. So
yeah. I think it's just so dangerous when we start glorifying that kind of stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Totally makes sense as a mid.
Yeah. So now we're gonna get to the fun topic.
Okay, so reminder, what we're doing today is we're gonna be crowning someone king of Booktok Boyfriends.
Yes, sorry.
Booktok Boyfriend. So the ones we'll be discussing in depth today are Rhys, like Ryshand. Is that how you say it?
What? Rhyshand?
Ryshand or Rhysand? Whatever.
I say Rhyshand, but I think potato at this point, you know?
Okay. Xaden, Draco, Mr. Darcy. I love that we threw that in there. Peeta, Rowan, Dorian, Hunt, and Cassian. We recognize that this is Sarah J. Maas heavy, but so is Booktok.
Yes.
So we're gonna go with it. So just from what the names that I named out loud, right now, if you had to pick one before we get into their pro cons, who would you crown victor right now?
Right now? Dorian.
Actually, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like,
that's a good
like
choice.
I'll be so real with you. My brain was like Xaden, and then my brain was like, no, Jelaire. You know the real answer. It's Dorian.
You know what's so funny? I was gonna say Xaden. Like I was fully prepared to say Xaden, and then you said Dorian, and I was like, wait, that's obviously the right choice.
Because it's like, realistically, who would I want to be with? Dorian.
So now that's hilarious. We're on the same page. Okay, so Dorian is who we would both choose.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if it stays the same after we pro con them, though. So we'll see what happens.
And I will let you all know, listeners, we've listed these people, but we haven't like discussed the pro cons previously. Like this is so organic and it's fresh for you and it's fresh for us. So it's going to be a surprise.
That we're unprepared.
No. I mean, like, it's not like I already know your answers, is what I'm trying to convey.
Fair.
You know, I didn't know you were going to pick Dorian. I didn't know I was going to pick Dorian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
We were keeping it under wraps for a reason.
Okay, so let's start with sort of everyone comes back to the fandom, comes back to reading really with A Court of Thorns and Roses, right?
Yes.
So Rhys, Ryshand, what do we think of him? Let's pro con.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally the Booktok boyfriend trademark. If, you know, whenever you think Booktok, you think of him. So pros, cons. Pros, he's very handsome. He's very like protective. He's got a lot of things that obviously are admirable. Wow.
Yeah, I think him letting her go, like when he knew that she was his mate, but he like let her go because he thinks she wants to be with Tamlin. That was hot as fuck.
Yeah, it was. Truly.
You know, I know we didn't know until retrospect, but like,
yeah,
I think that was hot as fuck.
No, letting her make her own choices is hot as fuck.
Yeah, it really is. I will say, kind of a funny aside, I think the fan art of him kind of ruins him. But I think that's true for any of them, because he's described as having violet eyes. And it looks so creepy when people put in those contacts or whatever. Like, I've always pictured violet eyes, when it's described that way in books, as like so blue it's almost purple. Not just
yeah.
straight purple. Like, be serious, y'all.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's like a side complaint, but I think like Rhys has some really epic lines. I know he doesn't tell her that he's her mate, Feyre, that he's her mate. We can definitely see why he wouldn't, considering like what she's been through with Tamlin and leaving Tamlin and not wanting to pressure her. Also, still being a Fae is a new concept. So, like, I'm your mate. Like, it just...
Yeah, that would be the... I mean, we all saw how, like, spoiler alert, What's-His-Flip messed up with Elaine immediately.
And said, Lucian.
Yeah. And said, like, oh my gosh, you're my mate. And then she was absolutely terrified. Like, duh, makes sense.
Yeah, it's, like, way too much, way too fast. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, he has that line about... I mean, we all talk about Chapter 54 and 5 for a reason. Like, where he could picture Feyre. Like, he sometimes would get glimpses of her life through, like, their mating bond before he knew her. Something about that's so beautiful. And I think, you know, he talks about just how, like, everything would have been worth it to see you once and stuff. Yeah. And so, like, how much he risks to go see her for the first time and stuff. I think it is quite beautiful. But we do also have to address the cons in the room. Yeah. He, under the mountain, he drugs her repeatedly. I know that obviously there's a war context going on with Amarantha. He's trying his best. It's making sure that she gets fed, really, in a lot of ways. But, like, there's a lot of complicatedness there. For me, I get why he did what he did.
Oh, yeah, 1000%.
War context.
We get it.
That being said... Bitch never apologized. He never said I'm sorry in any sort of way. And I get the biggest ick from that.
Because we love men who apologize and own up to what they did.
And also when he lies to Feyre about how her pregnancy is going to kill her.
Oh my gosh.
Pro-life.
Yeah. That is honestly the biggest con of all of it.
Yeah.
Which is so ick.
So ick. And I love the concept of their love, but anyway. Okay, Xaden. What do we think about Xaden?
So again, for context, I have not finished Onyx Storm. I keep wanting to call it Iron Storm.
Yeah.
Okay. Like... Yeah, let's just meld them all together. But, you know, he's so... I really like how smart he is. You know? I admire how smart he is and tactical he is. And obviously, like, he has to lie and keep secrets for an important reason. But also kind of leads into a con. It's also kind of sucky that he has to do all of that. Because our main homie, Violet, is, like, annoyed at him for keeping secrets. And
which is valid.
Which is so fair. It's so valid.
To trust him. I want to point out that when it comes out at the end of book 1 that he had been lying to her. And she says, what the fuck? And he's like, I never lied to you, though. Like, I just didn't tell you the truth.
I hate that.
Me too. And she calls him out on it, very rightly so. He does think about it. It's that one chapter that's from his pog. And he takes a beat, and he's like, you know what? You're right. I am sorry. I should have found a different way to do this. Yeah. I was trying to protect people. So, like, he does say his reason. He was like, I was trying to protect people. I didn't know if you could keep the secret, like, from things like Dane and whatever. I was to protect you, but, like, ultimately, I should have found a different way to do it, and I'm sorry. And I respect the fuck out of that. Like, he literally apologizes.
Again, we love a man that apologizes.
He then turns around and says, you have to think of the right questions to ask me in the next book. So that was... I know, which is so...
It's so annoying, because she's, like, literally, like... Towards the end, she's like, how am I supposed to know what to even ask you? Because most of the times when she asks a question, he can't tell her. Yeah. And so, of course, being shut down that many times makes you not want to ask questions anymore. And then she's like, anyways, I don't want to get too deep because it's not about Violet. But, you know.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I think it's such a fucked up thing to say. He's like, I'm going to have full disclosure, but, like, not really. And I get that he can't tell her everything. I actually do. But what's weird to me, and I think this is why they have that miscommunication trope that's so frustrating to watch from the outside in, even though like that's the most common trope in real life.
Oh
like,
yeah,
but it's fine.
truly.
He could have. What he should have done is he should have told her everything he could tell her at that time. Like he should have been like he should have volunteered things about himself and his life and his whatever, and he didn't. Instead, he's like, "Yeah, well, ask the right thing." Like that's fucked up.
That's so fucked up. What a cop out.
Such a cop out. Now that being said, I will say Xaden loves her in this sort of like big way. This like very like. I mean, we all love this, right? I'll burn the world down for you. Way.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like touch her and you die. Yeah. Literally. Besides like, the fact that their lives are so intertwined anyway, so like if one of them dies, the other literally will die. But it's like their chemistry and everything is like beyond physical chemistry. They do genuinely care about each other and want to protect each other. And I love that it's like a co-balance. It's not just like Xaden always... I mean, Xaden does it a lot more, but, you know, they're both worried for each other, and it's not just Xaden being like, I'm only going to protect you. Because that was why she didn't like Dane, you know?
It's definitely a balance. And I think he also, like, it's the way for me that he never, like, he pushes her privately. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
But he also, when I say he loves her loud, it's like, doing things like making the unique saddle for her.
Yes.
Different things like
the daggers.
Like showing, like proclaiming to large rooms full of people, like, no, we're a freaking joint package, actually. Like refusing to be like, have someone just address him. He's like, no. Like, that love loud is really great, but obviously there's one very large con. He's a fucking Venom.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Have you listened to the Rebecca Yara Spotify playlist for Onyx Storm?
Not yet, no. I'm too scared.
Okay. So she has...
I'm going to look this up right now.
She has on it that song, I'm sure you remember, it was like viral on TikTok a few years ago, Venom, where it's like, Venom.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, so, but the way I just picture her jamming out to it, picturing them saying Venom.
Oh my gosh.
So...
This is a wild playlist.
It is a wild playlist.
We've got Circus by Britney Spears on here.
She's listening to this music, like, legitimately while writing about these characters. Maybe she just thinks about it while listening to the lyric music.
Also iconic that Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is on here, so.
There's a lot of TDP on there, actually, which is really good.
Which is fitting. Fits the color vibe of the book.
Yeah, it does, honestly. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to Rowan. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to Rowan. Give me his pros.
What pros?
So I know we see that Rowan ends up loving her a lot. I know that everyone thinks it's so iconic when he's like, where's my mate?
Yeah. But, like, here's the thing. I know they're supposed to be kind of like enemies to lovers, fey cousins, whatever the fuck. Okay? Okay, whatever. But it just kind of becomes this weird codependent relationship, and I don't buy it.
Yes, that's why I hate him. I think it's so toxic.
It's so toxic.
From, like, complete hatred. Like, complete hatred.
Yeah.
Like, he literally pushes her to the brink of near suicide.
Right?
Like, multiple times.
Like,
she's already suicidal.
How could you love someone that pushes you to suicide? Like, are we so for real right now?
No, seriously. And I know eventually it gets bad enough that he's like, oh, but
like what? Do you feel bad though? Or are you just like, oh my gosh, she's hot and now she's gonna be gone?
I think he did feel bad, but the lack of empathy it would take to have consistently said the hurtful, rude things he did about her for so long, and then like be like, oh well, I didn't know it'd make her suicidal. What do you mean, bro? Like,
yeah, dude.
I know he's supposed to be tortured, but, like, be so serious. He's an asshole. And then, like, yeah, I agree with codependence, because she says something at one point, like, because I'm doing a reread right now, actually. Brian and I are doing the audiobooks, because it's his first time, and we're in Air of Fire, Crown of...
Yeah, book 4.
Yeah, book 4-ish. And, you know, she talks sometimes about, like, how, like, she doesn't even know how to live without him and think, like, it doesn't.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah. When they say things like that, especially when they get later on in the books, I'm like, what do you mean? it's literally giving like how like when we were children, when we were teenagers and we read Twilight, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, Bella's like, and Edward are like, I can't live without you. And we're like, oh, romantic. No.
And, you know, the idea of not being able to go on once a partner dies makes a lot of sense.
No,
but like,
totally.
She like forgives him with no real apology. Like, he never really is like, I'm sorry I treated you like shit. It's just like, suddenly he's kind of this different person. And it's very toxic. I feel like Loki just groomed her by giving her no attention for a long time. And then, of course, she attached to him. Her whole thing of depression is she lost all her attachment figures. Of course she attached to him.
Yeah, it literally is like a switch flipped. Yes. And then she's like into him, and I was like, where the fuck did this come from? And I was like so sus of this guy because I remember like a lot of people do like Rowan. And so I was like, okay, who's this hoe? I know that's probably who she's going to end up with because, you know, Aelin, understandably, to make sense, goes through a lot of different people, right? That's realistic. And
it's a long period of time.
And there's so much time in those books, right? And so, like, by the time he enters the chat, I was kind of like, okay, who's this mofo? You know what I mean? And then I was like, I hate this man. It's kind of like with Akatar, I was like, okay, everyone talks about Rhys. And so when he entered the chat and he was like an asshole at first, and then, you know, we learn what we do in the next book, I'm like, okay, but Rowan just sucks the whole time.
So, yeah, the difference is, like, Rhys did some messed up stuff, but most of them were not to Feyre. Like, Feyre just thinks he's fucked up because of everything she's heard about him. And she, rightly so, does not trust him. But, like, because you shouldn't trust anyone in this Fey world, given what she's going through. But, like, a lot of the things he actually does, like getting her away from the scary man at Calamai, and, like, but, like, not forcing her to talk to him when she wants to walk away. Like, a lot of the things he does, giving her the bargain, like, I know he has to make it look believable to Amarantha, but it's still, when you look back after you know that he'd been in love with her all along, it's so clear. And that's the difference. Like, Rowan legitimately hated Aelin.
Oh, yeah.
And it's gross. I don't like it.
I hate it.
Yeah, thanks, I hate it. It's fine. Also, if we're being honest, Rowan never got over his shit. I think, like, Rowan's traumatized too, so they're both trauma bonded to each other. Mm-hmm. But, like, I don't think it's healthy for either of them.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so moving on. He will not be crowned victor, in case anyone was wondering.
We needed to have someone we don't like that as much.
It's nice when we're on the same page. Mr. Dorian. Fun fact, did you know she was supposed to end up with Dorian? That was originally the plot. She was supposed to come back from Rowan to Dorian.
Shut up.
Yeah.
SJM, why didn't we do that? Even though I love Dorian and Manon, but, like, come on. I
feel like they just got... I think the trauma bond, I think even Sarah J. Maas writing it, she was like, yeah, this feels great, but she should have left it open to eventually them leaving each other.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a lot to work through immediately. But Dorian, he's hot. He's always pro-Aelin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he sees her as who she is very soon in, and when he gets new information, sometimes he is kind of like, wait, if she's this rival princess... does she hate me? But he never acts out on those things. He never lashes out at her in, like, an unhealthy way. Mm-hmm. He, he has so much character growth. I mean, like, all the characters have a lot of different growths and paths because the series is so long. But Dorian's is so... I love his so much because, you know, at first we're kind of like, okay, he's this, like, prince that loves to, you know, have fun, party, whatever. And then Aelin, like, changes him. They change each other, honestly, throughout the whole book. Yeah. Their friendship, relationship friendship is so critical beyond, you know, the obvious, like, rival royal families and, like, you know, everything else that's happening at large. But they make it work. They make each other grow in good ways.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful to watch. And I think it's really a testament to how beautiful of a character Dorian is. Because Dorian's so loyal and loving. And I think he's really good at just being like, this is what my heart says. And doing the right thing. Like, Dorian's really great at doing the right thing.
Yes.
And, like, talk about, by the way, perseverance and resilience.
Oh my gosh.
To be able to survive the Vogue. And then also, okay, can we talk about how when he sees a hot woman, that's what makes him, like, be able to fight off the Vogue for a minute to flirt with her?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, go away for a second, I need to flirt. Like, that's iconic as fuck.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So. Yeah, Dorian, I have no cons for Dorian. He's been through a lot of trauma, I guess. But I wouldn't say that that's a con. It's just like, I do think he needed time after the Vogue situation.
Yeah, totally. Like, cinnamon bun man.
You know what? If there was a con, it's that because he's going to be king of Otterland, I wouldn't want to be queen of a city that had been abused that long, because it would just be a lot of pressure.
Totally.
That's his only con, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So Cassian, what do we think of Cassian?
You know, I like him. He's kind of the silly, goofy, bat boy, if you will. And he's very loyal. He's extremely loyal, and he's very caring. And we see, obviously, a lot of him in Nesta's book, right? Sure. The most. But he's definitely somebody that's, like, got your back no matter what. And
Cassian has... Oh, sorry.
No, please, go.
He just has so much emotional intelligence for a man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think more so than maybe any... I mean, Dorian maybe, but, like...
No, out of all the SJM men... Yeah.
Yeah, he really has this ability to tell when something's wrong with someone. And he goes about asking them about it in a way that's so loving. And then if he does do it wrong, he quickly apologizes. For example, Feyre, when she's first in the court, and she sends a letter to Tamlin saying, "I'm not coming back." She doesn't say, "You abusive piece of shit," but she should have.
She should have.
And he's like, "Hey, we're going to talk about that," and he kind of teases her. And she reacts really badly. And because it was a lot. And he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I just want to give you a place to talk, but, like, we don't have to talk if you don't want to." And it's so important when someone can apologize when they fuck up.
Yeah,
but B,
it's hot.
I think, honestly, she did need someone to ask her. I think he didn't know how to best ask her because he didn't know her very well yet. But I think it's so key that he did that, and then he knew how to listen when she was ready to. When she did talk about it, and she was, like, doing their little punching bag thing together. I think it was such an important breakthrough for her, and we see that even when he first meets Nesta. Like, he kind of smirks when he meets her, like, and Feyre clocks it as, like, him acknowledging a worthy adversary. And I know he calls Nesta out on her shit, absolutely, for being a bitch to Feyre. All those years, but that's honestly, that's kind of hot that he can communicate that well, that he can be like, "Yeah, that was fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, what you did sucked." Like, I actually think that's cool that he's not beating around the bush. He's directly communicating and then listening to what the other person has to bring to the table. I think it's some of the best communication we see in Booktok men.
No, truly. Because, like, we all know that in, Nesta's book, like, she's not great at communicating, but, like, I respect the fact that he keeps trying.
Sure.
That he keeps, obviously beyond their obvious, like, chemistry and, like, whatever fun banter, everything else is going on, like, he keeps trying to be and ends up becoming a safe space for her, like we saw him do with Feyre. Sure. But, like, we love an emotionally intelligent man.
Yeah, it really is, and he's like that with his friends too. I think so if you rewatch Twilight,
okay,
Emmett, wait, it's Emmett, right? Yeah, he gives Cassian energy.
No, seriously though, fan cast right now.
It makes it so much funner to rewatch if you're like, wait, this is giving Cassian, and you just picture him as Cassian the whole time.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I like that.
Honestly. Okay, so cons on Cassian. I think Cassian I don't know. What do you got?
The only thing I can kind of think of is that even though, like, I admire that he tries to be there for people so much, maybe it's almost to a point of being, like, a little too meddlesome. But not even, I wouldn't even really call that a con. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if I thought it was meddlesome, but I could see why maybe some people wouldn't.
Yeah, to some people, maybe.
I do think, you know, sometimes his jokes annoy me.
Yeah, that's
he
fair.
Makes that joke after the chapter 55, when they acknowledge their mates, Feyre and Rhys. Cassian makes a joke about, like, how, oh, Feyre doesn't look tired enough, I'll ride her.
Oh, yeah.
Or something. And Rhys is pissed and whatever, and they beat each other up, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I know some people in the fandom think that's awesome because it's kind of like, oh, he, like, knew that Rhys needed to blow off some steam and he did it for his friend. But I think it was kind of inappropriate in terms of, like, he didn't know how it would feel for Feyre to hear him say that out loud about her.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me such an ick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he really thought that Rhys needed to get off steam and that's what he was trying to do, I feel like he could have done it in 5 million different ways that wasn't saying something crass about Feyre's body.
Totally.
So, that's my con for Cassian, as I think he took he can take the joke a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
And that is honestly just not the fucking vibe. So.
Yeah, period.
Okay. Alright, so, our last Sarah J. Maas man, we have, and we'll get into non-Sarah J. Maas men, we have Hunt from Crescent City.
This is another one where I'm like, this is codependence that's gonna lean toxic. And reminder for everybody, I've only read book 1. So, because I'm a loser.
She's working on it, though. It's not because she didn't like it.
No, I really do like it. I just, as we all know, I suck at consuming things sometimes.
Hunt's interesting because, I think he was a misogynistic ass before he met Bryce.
Yeah.
And I know, again, maybe I just don't like enemies to lovers. Maybe this is not my fucking trope because...
Yeah.
He says some things about Bryce, like getting her nails done, whatever, that are very just so dismissive. And honestly, but here's the problem. It's not just dismissive of the fact that actually she was a strategizing queen and she was learning stuff about their investigation. And he ends up being mind blown by that. Like, and I will say he does change his opinion when faced with new information. So that's a pro. But he, for me, a lot of the ways he was describing Bryce were just fucking sexist.
Yeah.
And so I really struggle to move on from that. And I know that doesn't seem fair, but, like, why is it that these really old men in some of these series can be misogynistic for 800 years and then I'm expected to forgive him?
Yeah.
I feel like if you're misogynistic for... Okay, so Hunt's, I don't think 800, but, like, my point. Like, if you're... Rowan was really old, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you're misogynistic for a certain amount of decades, even as a human, I think it's, like, fair to be like, yeah, you're probably an ass, even if you changed at the end of your life.
Right. Totally.
So it wasn't good enough for you until you fell in love to think that women's pursuits weren't frivolous? That feels maybe not great to me.
Yeah. For real.
That being said, I do think Hunt's a lot better than Rowan. I agree with you that there's, like, kind of a weird energy, but I think it's a much better enemies to lovers. I do think he loves her. I think,
I buy their relationship so much more than Selena's and Rowan's. And, like, it's not perfect. But, like, also kind of similarly, I think, like, in my head, I like the idea of enemies to lovers because it sounds fun. Well, I guess I kind of only do with, like, Hermione. But in, like, every other sense, I'm kind of like, ooh, I don't know, Chief.
I like enemies to lovers when it's not real enemies to lovers. I like the kind where, like, he was secretly in love with her the whole time.
Yeah! Oh,
like
that's hot.
Arden from, what is that called? The Cruel Prince? You know, like, where she found, like, the note where he wrote her name 1,000,000 times. Like, that's hot.
Yeah.
I don't find it hot when they think or say mean things about the women.
Yeah.
Or, like, rival houses. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like if there's a situation where, and I actually think Rhys and Fair are kind of this way, where it's like there was a reason, like with the war that they and the fact that they're from different courts, that like there was an enemies vibe. That can be hot.
Yeah.
But
totally.
yeah, if it's just I hate you as a human being and now suddenly I don't, I just kind of struggle with that.
I'm like, what flipped your switch? You can't just change that overnight, you know?
And I'm sure there's a romance book out there that does it right, and I've not experienced it, so put it in the DMs.
Yeah, like, send it to us, please.
Okay, so any other final thoughts on Hunt?
No, we can move on.
Let's move on. Okay, so let's do Mr. Draco Malfoy.
So Draco, it's so funny because obviously in the Harry Potter books, it's always Harry's POV, and so we're led to believe, you know, Draco's like a piece of shit because he kind of acts like one being a teenager and has so much going on, right? Please explain.
Okay.
I'm being so vague and like generalizing a ton.
He's absolutely book canon a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Hard to disagree. Now, I know it's Harry's pop and people like to say that, but like just canonically, if you go through it, he gave Hermione buck teeth.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, he is a piece of shit. Like, that's fair. No, like, that's so fair.
It's not just Harry misinterpreting it. Like,
no.
He's a piece of shit.
No. What I'm saying is, like, I'm trying to set up that it's like he is a piece of shit in the books. However, like, we don't see a whole lot of him that would maybe give him any kind of redeeming qualities. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So, what's fun about Draco and why I like him it's because of the fan fiction. The Hermione fan fiction sucked me in.
Yeah.
And so how people... Yeah, it's different.
Characters, bitch. Like, like if you tell me you like Hermione, I'm like, okay, I vibe with that. You tell me you just like Draco, I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Because like with Hermione fanfiction, for the most part, it's definitely like Draco is perceived as more of like a smart academic person, and like just not to the level like Hermione is. But they can, I don't know. I just love how he's perceived in fanfiction a lot more. Like, he's definitely still flawed, but it feels like the enemies to lovers that I can believe. I can get behind.
I agree with that. I think in the fan fictions I've read, and which have admittedly not been a lot, but like I can conceive of a way why you could try to write Draco in such a way that it's like, oh, he was victim of circumstance, given who his father was, and like overcoming that. Yeah, I do think again in the books. Yeah, there's just a lot of evidence he's a piece of shit. Yeah, but in fan fiction, I think Hermione makes a ton of sense. I think it's a fun place to experiment. I think, you know, it is kind of a funny one because I think he's such an iconic book boyfriend. But we had
Draco talk during the pandemic. Are we kidding?
Yes, and it is still going strong. No, seriously, the amount of times my vanishing cabinet blew up because of Draco talk, like of course I have to know about it. And so, but it's interesting because he's like a go-to Booktok boyfriend for everyone. Yeah. But like, we're all talking about different Dracos. Oh yeah. Because there's canon Draco, as we talked about, but even within the fan fictions, Draco is a dramatically different person from fanfic to fanfic. And so I do think he's kind of an interesting one, like in terms of like, you can't easily crown him.
Yeah, he's like this anomaly that just like, this is so silly. I'm thinking of Pokemon. You know, Ditto, the Pokemon that can become whatever Pokemon it chooses to be. That's kind of like
so funny.
I'm like, that's Draco in the Booktok world. You know,
I think people use the concept of Draco, and maybe it's because we all grew up when they were growing up. The actors were growing up. I think a lot of people, use Draco as sort of a way to heal. You know, like that fantasy, I can fix him. Or whatever.
Totally.
Absolutely is what they're fixing and hyperfixating on. So like, I get the appeal of a Draco. I do get it. I think a lot of the fan fiction for me falls short. The one, at least the really popular ones like Manacled. Yeah. And like, I don't think he's a good guy in that.
Yeah. But. And I was like, and like my homie that got me into Hermione fanfic also thinks Manacled is mid. So there we go.
Honestly, babe, let's be honest, okay? Like, let's be honest here. You sent me an audio right after you finished it, to my phone, and you think it's worse than mid. Like, let's lay it out on the table.
No, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're gonna flame me, fine. But I literally hated it. And I, like, even at one point, Rachel was like, Jelaire, why are you reading this if you hate it so much? And I was like, she was like, it's like a hate read at this point. I'm like, it is a hate read because I need an opinion. I need to know why everyone cries at the end. And then I got to the end, and I'm like, I'm not crying.
Yeah, you're like, he's still a piece of shit. It's so funny because everyone's like, oh, it changes everything. And Jelaire was like,
no! It changed nothing!
So there was a book I read a really long time ago when I was in high school. It was like a YA bestseller that year, but I don't remember what it was called. But it basically was like the concept of like a girl was kidnapped and she falls in love with her kidnapper. Like she was underage and she's kidnapped by like this 25-year-old man in Australia.
Jeez,
she's from the US. And we watch her, and just like her, we start to develop Stockholm Syndrome for him.
Okay.
And, like, eventually she gets bitten by this, like, horrible spider or something. And, like, because they're in the middle of the fucking outback in Australia, and Australia's horrifying.
Right.
And he ends up taking her to the hospital, but he knows it'll turn him in, which it does. And we see her then starting therapy, like in a what is it called when it's after? A forward?
I don't know.
Epilogue.
Jeez
anyway,
Louise.
we see that her starting therapy, and we see her learn the concept of Stockholm Syndrome.
And
I think that's what happens with Hermione. I think sometimes.
Sometimes. Dude, that's literally what...
Stockholm Syndrome.
That's literally manacled. Jeez. Literally manacled.
No, literally, it's like, that's called Stockholm Syndrome, babe. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. But I get it. It's a real syndrome for a reason.
Truly. Anyway, so yeah.
But
Draco's an anomaly.
Tom Felton's an icon when it comes to the fandom, so I can kind of see why we kind of conflate all these realities together.
Yeah, well, and also it doesn't help that like Tom Felton and Emma Watson are such good friends, and like, you know, if you know, you know, all the like random history with them crushing on each other at the wrong time, you know, whatever. The fact that they're so important to each other's lives feeds the Hermione fandom as well. So
sure, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, also, can we just take a beat to laugh at the fact that we said we were going to talk for 2 minutes about each character? The fuck were we smoking? Literally, be serious. All right, okay, we're gonna throw it back, okay?
Okay.
Which is funny because this is an enemies to lovers, and I do like him, Mr. Darcy.
Let's go. Enemies to lovers done classically.
Classic. The hand flex.
The hand flex.
Like, I was explaining the concept of the hand flex. Like, I casually mentioned it. And Brian was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what do you mean what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah. Like, bitch, aren't you educated?
Have you not studied? It was really funny. But I think Mr. Darcy's a perfect example of, like, it's not she changed him. It's he's like, oh, you're right. I need to fucking change. And he went away and he did the fucking work. And then he came back. And I think like that's the key difference with Mr. Darcy and like a lot of these like things.
Yeah, truly. Because like Pride and Prejudice takes place over a good chunk of time. And so it's like, because obviously they don't like each other. They get off on the wrong foot, blah, blah, blah. They have the great witty banter, whatever. And, oh, man. We love a man who fixes himself. You know,
a special place in my heart because I played Elizabeth Bennet in high school in a production. But beyond just even that, I think there's something really beautiful about, I know that I literally just trolled Hunt for this. But, like, he clearly was kind of misogynistic and classist and all these horrible things. And I think Elizabeth sort of, her existence challenges all these concepts for him.
Totally.
Which is why, at first, he was like, I hate that I love you, but I love you. And why she's like, fuck that.
And she's like, you like me against your better judgment? Back the fuck off.
Yeah. That's kind of a weird thing to say, actually, my name.
That's such a backhanded compliment. Like, you want to marry me, but not. Like, okay. Bye.
So I think he had to work on all those, like, fucked up things about himself. The fact that he does, like, look down on people without wealth and things like that. He had to work on those things to be a better human being.
Right.
And I think, like, it's done in a much... I think the fact that Elizabeth got through to him when he wanted to hate her so much shows that, like, he hadn't come up with anyone that had sort of challenged his worldview before. He probably was mostly surrounded by yes men.
Yeah, I'm guessing that, like, because of his status and everything, people wouldn't challenge him. So the fact that she did, and was just like, I don't care.
Well, and how often does he really interact with, like, lower level nobility?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably not very often. So he has all these notions in his head from, like, essentially consuming Fox News. And
Regency Fox News!
He means
Can you Regency Fox News? I'm just picturing now, like, Lady Whistledown, but, like, even though it's not the same, but I'm like, something akin to that, being like, Regency Fox News.
So funny.
Anyways.
Yeah, I think it makes sense he hadn't come against someone that made him have to question all his beliefs before. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it shows that he was open to being wrong.
Yeah.
Which, again, is hot.
It's hot.
So, there's a reason he stuck around forever. Also, can we talk about, I happen to be taking a writing course online recently, or listening to a writing course online recently, where this man said...
Your face was so funny.
Male writer, who is, like, you know, kind of a big deal or whatever, but, like, not Jane Austen big, okay? Was literally like, you know, you might be a professional writer, or maybe you're an amateur writer. Maybe you just write a book once every few years for your sisters, like Jane Austen. And I was like, come again? It was such an offensive thing to say. Because Mr. Darcy, if we really want to talk about it, any other book boyfriend we have on this list only exists because of Mr. Darcy.
He was
Jane
a blueprint.
Austen literally was, like, putting works out there that people thought of as frivolous and not worth anything because it dealt with the private life.
Yeah.
And like, she did it so powerfully and talked about essentially how economics affects and, like, inter-society, like, ties and, like, hierarchies affect women's outcomes in life. That's what she was writing about, essentially. She was writing about politics, actually, even though it felt private. She wrote about it so poignantly that her words were able to survive the male erasure of women that happens constantly. And we still have adaptations of Pride and Prejudice to this day. It still sells really well every fucking year. It is this everlasting piece of work. All of her works are. And we're going to have some male writer being like, oh, well, she was casual. She only wrote every few years, so.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Her works have lasted, 200 years?
Yeah, something like that. I'm going to look that up.
And the audacity to say that, and, like, look, maybe this writer's works will last 200 years, but that's a pretty rare feat.
Her first book...
You know what I mean?
Her first book was published in 1811.
For 200 years.
Yeah, and she was 35 years old.
That's
and in case you wanted to know, it was Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, I did want to know, so thank you. I'm telling you. Anyway, so thank you for letting me get on my soapbox about that. If you DM me, I'll tell you who it is, but I won't say it publicly, so. Okay. Anything else you want to say about Mr. Darcy?
No, he's an icon, a legend, for a reason. Yeah, that's why he's the gold standard for so many women.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm doing vague gestures because it's like, duh, it makes sense.
It's kind of hard to even wax poetic on it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's too... Anyway, Peeta. What do you think of Peeta?
He was probably my first, like... Well... Probably one of my first, like, true lasting book boyfriends. Because, he's artistic, he's very kind. I love kind, soft boys. And he's very loyal. I love loyalty. He obviously has some flaws, as we all do.
You know, I would push back on the idea that he is soft. But I mean it as a compliment.
No, that's what I mean, like, as a compliment.
Yeah, I know you mean it as a compliment, but I mean it as a compliment that I'm saying he is not soft. Peeta is a strategizing genius.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that time and time again in the games. Like, Peeta plays the politics on a level that keeps Katniss alive in ways she couldn't do on her own, but also, like, gives him a better shot in the arena at achieving his goals. He, like, the fact that he was able to get in with the careers, that he was able to do all these things, like, not a lot, like, that was some intense bravery on his part. And, like, honestly, like, I don't know, the stuff he would have had to have seen being part of the careers for those first few weeks and stuff. Like, I don't think Peeta's a soft man. Even the fact that when he threw her the bread when they were children, he purposely had to burn the bread first. Because although if he had just been like, Mom, can I give this to this starving child? She'd be like, fuck you, no. Like, his mom's abusive. So he burns the bread knowing it will harm him, and it did. His mom beats him, to then be able to throw it to Katniss. And I think, like, that just goes to show, like, I don't think that's softness.
I guess, like, maybe in my mind, I'm thinking, like, softness, kindness, kind of, like, obviously he's very brave, and, like, all the things you just said, like, iconic. I think, like, it's kind of like this duo. Like, do you kind of get what I'm trying to say?
Gale. Yeah, I think the problem is we all compare him to Gale, and Gale is, like, hyper masculine.
Yeah.
And I think when we compare anyone to hyper masculinity, then they look soft. But I think Peeta, his bravery, his intelligence, his whatever, I actually think is, if anything, is hardcore as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, he was kidnapped by the Capitol and brainwashed and overcame that, obviously, with time.
He overcomes so much, and he consistently puts himself out there, knowing the consequences, and unlike Gale, he doesn't let it change his kindness, absolutely, his softness.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's the most hardcore thing a person can do. And that's why I say he's not soft. I just want to push back on that. I think he's the true version of masculinity, is Peeta, actually.
Yeah. He's been a solid staple book boyfriend of mine for a long time. So I admire him.
I love Peeta. I mean, the way I think he has that sort of I've loved you forever thing.
Yes, which is so cute. I'm also a sucker for childhood friends to lovers, even though they weren't quite friends, but he's, like, admired her since they were children.
Yeah, he saw her sing and he was like, that's it for me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gone. Bye, and like everything he does is, like, in the way it's to do, like, the right thing and also protect Katniss and keep her alive, because he would rather die than
because I think he's been so observant for so long, he sees her for who she is.
Yeah.
He knows that she does good for the world long before she realizes it. And there's something so beautiful about that longing, that yearning. Yeah, Peeta's a really beautiful character, and I mean, I don't really have any negatives for Peeta.
Me neither.
Like, I guess the negative is, I mean, the same with any of these men, is that he's traumatized.
Yeah.
And that, I think the poor man needs some time and space, but, like, there's no real negatives to Peeta.
Yeah.
I do think the Peeta that was cast in the movies, though, is not as hot as the Peeta that was described in the books. But that's fine. Like, he's more like cute than hot. But that's not, like, a major complaint, obviously. No, you know what? My complaint is he's blonde. That's my complaint. I'm gonna need him to dye his fucking hair.
That's so funny.
Blonde men are kind of icky. I don't know. But that being said, if I think about the men who've traumatized me, there's one blonde. But a lot of them have been brunettes, so,
Well, I mean, typically, if we want to be stereotypical, blonde men are, kind of tend to be more problematic.
At least in books.
Yeah.
Okay, well, So now that we've gone through this con, we're going to kind of have like a little bracket, and it's going to be painful, okay? We're talking about ones I know neither of us like.
Yeah, no.
Because life is too short for that.
Yeah, YOLO.
All right, so you started with your top pick being Dorian.
Correct.
So I'm going to just place Dorian against other people, and we're going to see where we end up.
Okay, cool.
Dorian versus Peeta.
That's the hardest one, and I knew you were gonna do that.
I should have done that one last. I did play my trump card, so. Okay, we'll start easy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, let's end on that.
Dorian versus Rhys.
I'm gonna go with Dorian.
Okay. Dorian versus Xaden. That one's hard.
That's so hard. It's hard because I admire... Oh, man. I don't want to be like redundant and say like what I love about both of them, but that is hard. Let's go Dorian again.
Okay. Dorian versus Draco.
Oh, Dorian for sure.
Dorian versus Mr. Darcy.
Sorry. You don't even see my face right now and you just hear me scream. You know what? We're going to go Mr. Darcy. Let's spice it up.
Okay, so Mr. Darcy versus Peeta.
Peeta.
Okay, so that means your crowning person. Well, I mean, I guess I didn't give you Cassian, so.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so I think your crowning Booktok boyfriend is Peeta.
I think that checks. He's been my longest one.
I will say, I waxed very poetic about how awesome he was. Even I was convincing myself, so I'm not blaming you.
I mean, he's been a fave of mine for so long. So, you know.
No, that makes sense.
Keeping it interesting.
I think for me, it might be... Wait, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say, maybe you don't have to put them up against each other. You can just look at your list and make a decision.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think for me... Okay, well, so I'm going to say who I'm struggling between,
okay? Okay.
Obviously, Dorian's up there. Peeta, Xaden, and Mr. Darcy.
Okay.
But that's 4 boyfriends, and I'm not allowed 4 boyfriends.
So. Okay.
Okay, so Xaden, I have to kick him out just because he's a venom.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I'm just physically harming myself. Like, that's self-harm to choose Xaden at this point.
Yeah.
Period, queen. So, you know what I'm gonna pick? I don't know. Okay. So, we kicked him out. Okay, so I feel like I'm struggling between Mr. Darcy and Peeta now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I kicked Dorian out of the running.
You know, I kind of was thinking this with myself. I think part of why I kicked Xaden out, besides the fact that he's Venom, is like a recency bias a little bit. And so for myself. So I'm like, yeah, he is great, but like...
We just talked about how great Peeta is.
Yeah, and these other hosts have been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, recency bias is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think...
Because it's like, who do you still think about even though it's been years?
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Okay, final answer, I'm ready. Immediately panicked and didn't want to answer. Okay, I think it's Mr. Darcy.
I knew it. I knew you'd pick that.
Who I was going to pick. And see
oh my gosh, that would have been so funny.
Would have been really funny to see if you really knew.
And like, Pride and Prejudice means so much to you beyond like you playing Elizabeth, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it makes sense that you resonate with her so much. So of course you want to have her book boyfriend who like obviously is a great person, as we talked about anyways, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Dorian, you know, honestly, I just don't think I have the energy that Dorian would be looking for. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that made sense, but...
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I get you.
But I don't know. I'm going to text you in the middle of the night and be like, I changed my mind back to Dorian.
My gosh.
It's a tight race.
No, truly.
Truly. Okay, that was really fun.
That was really fun. Okay, special shout-outs.
Okay,
so boys...
So for me,
Hades. Nice.
Yeah. A Touch of Darkness does him really well, I think. Mm-hmm. We didn't include him because I don't think it's as prevalent of a Booktok book. But I think I've been obsessed with the idea of being with death personified for a very long time, which is where I think Shadow Daddy comes from for a lot of people. But Hades specifically, I think he's I just picture this very loving, beautiful man,
Mm-hmm.
like helping Persephone get free of her own shit.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it depends obviously on the version you're with, but I think Hades has been around in my head for a long time.
Truly.
What about you?
My special shout out is my actual longest book boyfriend, which is Will Herondale from the Infernal Devices series. It's one of the Shadowhunter books.
Is that the one where he's? I know they don't end up actually being brother and sister, but is it like the brother?
No,
and sister?
this is the prequel. It's that universe, but this is the prequel series that takes place in Victorian England.
I remember distinctly, I was quite young, when I read that book series and it ended like that first book, I just was like, I never read them again. I was like, it's dead.
Yeah, no, thankfully, like, this was the first trilogy I read of that universe.
That helps a lot.
So it helps a lot because I had heard the rumors about brother-sister weirdness, and I was like, heck no, we don't live there. So, like...
I was like, what the fuck is this?
No, literally, I was just like, the world sounds cool, Victorian England, sign me up. And people that still read her books, like, we've reached a point where it's like, Cassandra Clare's books is just fun. It's fun. It's not great, but, like, it's not great literature, but it's fun. And she needs to make them a lot shorter. Anyways, that's a tangent for another time. But pretty much the people that enjoy those books all agree that this one trilogy is the best one.
Okay. Okay.
And so
what makes him so great as a book boyfriend, though?
Oh man, he's kind of like, it's like how Mr. Darcy was the blueprint. This is like teenage angst Mr. Darcy blueprint. I would say, except a little less like hatred towards our main female character. Well, he does act like he hates her a little bit, but it's more like indifference because of plot reasons. Because he's traumatized,
Is there okay, so if you had to put him against Peeta,
mm-hmm.
That's who you ended up with, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to put him up against Peeta, who would you pick?
I would still pick Will. He's very loyal. He's very devoted. Like, he loves deeply, not just like romantic love. He loves his friends so deeply and will do anything for them and will do like the right thing, and even when it's hard. And he has so much that prevents him from kind of showing his true self a lot of the time, and his journey is so beautiful to me. And I love that, like, even though he's been through hard things, he still chooses to do the right thing and choose kindness. And
I'm dead though, because nothing you said was different than Peeta. But that's so funny, and I get it. I vibe with him. It's fine.
Hey, he's not blonde. He's not blonde.
He's not blonde. Ah, the real reason comes out.
He's not blonde, and he dresses in hot Victorian clothes. Okay.
Okay, Teal.
Yeah. You see, I have a type.
I get it. I feel it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be Hades for me. The burn the world down for your thing is really hot.
It is hot. Literally.
And I think and that doesn't mean he wouldn't do the right thing, though.
Yeah.
Both can be true. So,
mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you for attending our Booktok Boyfriend discussion. I'm sure we've been talking way too long. Thanks for sticking with us. Let us know who your favorite is. Did we miss them? Are we missing points?
Tell us your book boyfriend.
Tell us your book boyfriend. Even if it's Rowan, we won't make fun of you, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
I solemnly swear. In terms of FanCorner announcements.
Yeah, what's coming up?
Stickers.
Slay.
One is a particular cat. That I'm really excited about. From a fantasy franchise that Jelaire's not read yet, so she'll catch up and then I can tell y'all.
Okay.
But I'm really excited about that. I just came out with the black dragon earrings a few weeks ago. The gold dragon earrings are coming and hitting the shop soon, so that's exciting.
Heck yeah.
And then also, okay, so this is a weird thing to announce, but I'm gonna officially own FanCorner, like full out. Like my ex-husband will own half of it in a month and a half. Yeah, on April 1st, so I won't be able to say it on social because everyone will think I'm joking.
Yeah.
I will officially own FanCorner all on my own.
Hooray! And then also, your book's coming out.
My book comes out so soon. Yeah,
super soon.
Illustrated fairy tale The Girl Raised by a Dragon. It comes out in March. I've not picked a date because I just have to pick a date to tell Amazon. I upload the book though this weekend. I'm ordering the samples because you have to make sure that like the print lines all turn out right before you order a bunch of books.
Right.
But it'll be up on Amazon, and you pick a date that you want it to go live, and so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm gonna pick a date in March, but it's really exciting. I am booked at an author event for in a few months.
Woohoo! It's a really beautiful book. I read the as close to finished copy as you can get at this point.
The printer paper version.
Yeah, the printer paper version, and I cried. Good tears. It's so beautiful and powerful. So please read it.
Thanks,
it's amazing.
Bestie.
Yeah.
It was so funny too because like I think where I've been staring at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
For 3 months. Well, and then months before that, but like there was that delay before my illustrator started illustrating. I've been doing approvals every single day, so I've looked at it too many times. Mm-hmm. So I think the impact of it has kind of gotten lost to me.
Yeah.
The words, like when you say a word too much, how it loses meaning? Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about the whole thing. Like, I'm like, is it good? I don't know.
No.
But honestly, it's not about me anymore. Like, it's between God and the book. Like,
No, it's so beautiful. I literally read it at her house and started crying, and I was like, people need this book. It is so good. So, and really beautiful. It's really beautiful artistically and writtenly. Both ways.
I mean, I did pay for a very good illustrator. I did not fuck around and find out with that.
Yeah.
So,
Slay.
As I should. Okay. Well, so like, comment, subscribe, do the things you know the drill. We are starting to post more BookTube episodes, so be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see me do random book recommendations and stuff, as well as the podcast episode. But until the next time, when hopefully we're talking about Onyx Storm.
Yeah, I'm going to get on that real fast because I'm not dying.
You can control her in the comments.
Yeah, please harass me.
Have a very magical day.